Yeah, so I want us to begin our conversation right away. It's already 10:01. And I think I can request Madam Regina. Regina, if you can begin for us with a word of prayer.
Okay, let us believe and pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Father, we pray that you'll be with us even as we start this conversation. We pray that your presence will be with us. We pray that's going to be impactful. We pray that we'll learn and the message that you want us to pass will be passed well. We thank you, Lord, and we worship your holy name. For this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you very much, Regina. So good morning once again to our distinguished participants, my very honorable panelists, colleagues, and friends from far and wide. Karibu sana to today's webinar. We are very glad to have you. My name is Dennis Langat, and I have the honor of moderating today's discussion. Our theme is drawn from our mandate, and we want to leverage land, water, ecosystem assets for climate and finance and sustainable development. And our special focus will be the two Tana and Athi River basins that spans within 19 counties from the upstream of Aberdare Ranges. The Tana and Athi River traverses 19 counties, which reach a blend of ecosystem that includes forests, wetlands, rangelands, grasslands, rivers, lakes, watersheds, and the floodplains of Tana Delta, which has a Ramsar site. So our discussion will seek to sensitize and break down carbon trading in a manner that is palatable to everybody. We want to give you insights on how rivers and forests and farmlands liaise with the community inclusion, who are, the community is very key for us to function, to do our mandate, how we can all fuel climate finance. And it is my hope that we will walk away with clear strategies on how to turn local assets into global opportunities. And to guide this discussion, we have an exciting gender-balanced lineup of experts that are drawn from industry, standard, policy, academia, and we have a very good success story from the community, that is Mikoko Pamoja. So karibuni sana. I think I'll start with an introduction of our panelists, and then I'll request, and then our managing director is on standby to officially open this discussion. So the first on the list is Captain John Karevi. Captain John Karevi is a CEO for Capacity Building Consultants Limited, and they provide solutions for implementing natural resource management programs and sustainable living initiatives, SLI, using locally available resources. So specifically, Captain Job is an expert in climate change science with a focus in precipitation mechanisms, climatology, meteorology, climate change risk management, weather index insurance, aviation science, and particularly when you talk about aviation science, he's well versed in applied aerodynamics, aviation fuels, aircraft emissions, jet repulsion technology, aircraft emissions audit and control. And Captain, I must confess that, well, understanding jet repulsion technology is quite something. So maybe you'll be telling us more about that. So, Bwana Captain, if you can hear me, karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Karibu. My second panelist is Madam Gladys Warigia. Gladys Warigia is a seasoned policy expert in the natural resource conservation sector, and she specializes in policy reforms, advocacy, and currently she's serving as a policy and advocacy manager at the Kenya Wildlife Conservancy Association. She brings on board a wealth of experience in bridging conservation policy and practice. She's well versed in community-led conservation, land rights, and she has contributed immensely to advancing community rights in natural resources, land and carbon markets, to the development of the community. She has participated actively in publishing a guide to carbon projects that is geared for conservancies, and another guide for conservancies in Kenya, a reference for community land management committees. And most importantly, she's a fellow to the Kingship Conservation Program. Madam Gladys, I hope I've done you justice. Karibu sana to this conversation. Gladys, if you can hear me, karibu sana.
Yes, thank you. Looking forward to the
Karibu.
discussion. Thank you.
All right, all right. My third panelist is Madam Lilian Mihaki. Lilian Mihaki is Plan Vivo. He works at Plan Vivo as a regional projects officer for East Africa, and she's actively involved in research in blue carbon ecosystems, well versed with people and climate for the past decade. She's highly experienced in mangrove ecology, and she does mangrove. Mangrove is a thing, engagement of communities in nature-based solutions, and she's significantly contributed to mangrove research, policy, and community development. And the last time we talked, she was pursuing a PhD in marine ecology. I don't know whether I can call you Dr. Muyaki yet, but karibu sana to this conversation.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you for inviting
Karibu.
us.
And alongside Lilian, we have a success story from the community. And we have with us Mr. Kasim Hassan. Kasim Hassan is from Mikoko Pamoja, which is a community-led initiative that is focused on mangrove conservation and restoration in Gazi Bay, that is in Kwale County. Actually, Mikoko Pamoja is the first project of its kind globally to fund conservation through the sale of carbon credits. And it is protecting 117 hectares of mangroves and reforestation of over, let me get the number right, 8,000 mangroves annually. So, Bwana Kasim, karibu sana. I hope you can hear me.
Asante Dennis, nimekaribia.
Karibu sana. Then we have Madam Esther Ndenya Muli from Lukenya University, where she serves as the Deputy Director for Research, and she coordinates research activities and community outreach. Currently pursuing a PhD in dryland resource management at the University of Nairobi. Holds an MSc in agriculture, precisely crop production. At Lukenya University, she serves as the lead in 10 million tree initiatives and coordinator in food systems innovative challenge. So, Madam Esther, karibu sana.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Yes, and she's pursuing a PhD. I think I mentioned that as well. So, we have Dennis Kieng. Dennis Kieng is a remote sensing and GIS expert with a strong background in Earth observation, data science, big data, and he specializes in applying satellite imagery, GIS, machine learning to tackle complex environmental challenges. Bwana Dennis Kieng, karibu sana.
Thank you for having me.
Karibu, karibu. And then lastly, we have Mr. Leonard Mushiri. Leonard Mushiri is a distinguished expert in forestry management, climate change adaptation, and community mobilization. Mr. Mushiri will be sharing insights into the opportunities available within the Tana and Athi River basins and how we can explore this immense potential through carbon markets to advance climate action and sustainable development. So karibu sana Bwana Mushiri. Bwana Mushiri, can you hear me? Just to make sure your microphone is on. Mr. Mushiri, can't hear you. You're muted. So as we wait for Mr. Mushiri to jump on, the managing director and the CEO for Tarda was on standby to give his opening remarks, and he'll be joining us shortly. There's a small meeting that he's attending to, but all the same, we have his blessing so we can start the meeting. And as we begin the meeting, I'll just a quick housekeeping rules. We want to request that you kindly stay muted unless you're speaking. And we highly encourage all the participants to use the chat box tab for questions as they come up during the discussion. So once again, karibu sana. I don't know whether I've gotten Mr. Mushiri on board to comment our dialogue.
Good morning, Dennis and the team.
Karibu sana, karibu sana. I thought I had lost you there, but welcome. Yes, so as a starting point, I think it's only fair for us to begin this dialogue and look at ourselves inwardly, look at the Tana and Athi River basins. And we want to anchor ourselves in there. And at this point, I'd like to invite Mr. Leonard Mushiri to give us just a basic contextual context on the basin and its major significance in the climate conversation. So just tell us about the Tana and Athi River basins, and I'll just give you a minute to do that.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Dennis, for having me. When you talk about Tana rivers, we are talking about the two biggest rivers in the Republic. The two rivers originate from Kenya, the ridges, and extend all the way through various ecological zones, including source, the coastal regions, and all the way to the coasts. The area covered by the basins is around 138 kilometers squared, equivalent with a population of 20 million people, and it extends to about 19 counties, some totally covered and some partially covered. And these two rivers extend to about 390 kilometers. So it's a big stretch. And for the last 50 years, Tana and Yadad Rivers development have been managing these resources within the Tana and Yadad Rivers basin, mainly planning, coordinating, and also implementing projects, integrated projects for social well-being of the people of the both basins and the country at large. In the recent past, the catchment has been witnessing some challenges, which are mainly due to climate change, population pressure, environmental degradation, and also unplanned urbanization, among others. In this line, therefore, the importance of the two rivers when it comes to socio-economic importance of these countries need to be emphasized, taking into consideration that they contribute to the hydropower generation, irrigation, and water use for the big cities and also for the domestic use.
Thank
I
you.
think that's the minutes. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Bashiri. Those are wonderful insights. And now that we have clearly understood the basins and how wide and far it traverses, I think that the next step will be just to highlight some of the opportunities and agroforestry, land use, yeah, and agriculture, nature-based solutions that are ready for maybe investor uptake within the region, just in 30 seconds.
The main opportunities for investing in nature-based solutions lies in one, forestry, agriculture, also partially on clean energy, land management, and also in waste management. In a nutshell, we can say that in agriculture, we are going to do agroforestry. We have got a big opportunity for agroforestry where we are going to integrate tree growing with crops and animals. Also, we have to do the riparian zone. I've said that we have got an area equivalent to that. The rivers extend 1,390 kilometers, meaning that we have a chunk big of land to do the riparian restoration using environmentally suitable trees. And also taking into consideration that we are not supposed to do farming in the beyond a certain range within a river zone means that we have got over 100 kilometers to do afforestation work within the riparian zone. Without forgetting that we have got Kiabere and Masiga Dam area ready for all riparian zone ready for afforestation with trees which are suitable for that area, including the bamboo and other suitable seedlings. Without much dwelling on the riparian zone, it is important to note that the opportunity to do the blue carbon in our delta zone. I think the experts who are very much conversant with the mangrove growing will tell us whether we can do the mangrove growing within our Tana Delta area for carbon sequestration.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
And finally, on dry land.
Yeah.
On dry land, we have got a big chunk of land of ASOS, meaning we have an area which need to be conserved, mainly in ASOS, arid and semi-arid areas with suitable tree seedlings, which can give us permanent, credible carbon credit, mainly the acacias and the Merivale.
Thank you. Thank you. going to be, thank you, Bushiri, for your insights. I think I'm trying to limit so that we can have a good management of time. So I think you've somehow touched on the next question that I was going to ask. I wanted you maybe just to highlight briefly if there are any ongoing carbon projects under Tarda's jurisdiction, just in 30 seconds. Mushiri, that question is still yours.
Yeah, that question. There is one ongoing project in Kiabere on growing of mokau trees for the media side. And also there is another on agroforestry being done in Upper Tana, Arad Muranga, on integrating fruit production and tree growing. Those are the two key areas projects which I'm aware are also ongoing.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bwana Mushiri. I think I'll be coming to you later, and I know among the participants we have investors, people who would like to uptake carbon projects. So maybe at the tail end of this discussion, I will give you another opportunity to highlight more of the opportunities that are available. So thank you. Now that Mushiri has given us a good bird's eye view and investor entry points, I'd like now to shift focus to now the real discussion. This is where now we want to discuss what these carbon markets, what carbon trading is all about. And my battery of experts in this field will comprise of Dr. Lilian Muhaki and Captain Job Kareithi. And maybe I want to start with Captain. And for us to understand carbon trading, it's important for us to look at history in terms of the global carbon architecture or perspective. Where it all started, where is it going? So Captain, maybe you can just give us a brief highlight on the history, and maybe your emphasis can be on the Kyoto Protocol enacted in 1997 and ratified in 2005, I believe, how that shaped the carbon market tools that we are currently using. So Captain, karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Kyoto Protocol, yes, was the first protocol among that came up for trading in carbon. I would like to mention that the reason why it was necessary to even think of trading or even think about emissions is because of pollution that was too much, especially in Europe, with the then the WASUPA countries, the NATO countries, Germany, Czechoslovakia, having a lot of pollution. That is as a result of industrialization. Eventually, it was noticed that pollution could not be controlled in one country, and the global consensus came in, and the Kyoto Protocol was the first among them. Now, Kyoto Protocol is now finished, but I would like to mention that it didn't do us a whole lot of good because it kept away some of the initiatives like agriculture. That is what we deal with, especially in Africa, soils, and all those other things like that. Even biodiversity was not there. And now these are things that are there. We've already now trespassed. We're now dealing with the Paris Agreement. And, you know, we can talk more on Kyoto, the CDM projects, but right now that is already history. And so we are now dealing with the Paris Agreement. Anything else?
So thank you. Thank you, Captain. And it's a good thing that you mentioned the Paris Agreement, and that was going to be my next question. So maybe I just want you to highlight on the mechanisms that are right for prioritizing under Article 6, I believe. I don't know whether you will pick on 6.2, 0.4, or 0.8, but I just give us an overview of the Article 6, Captain.
Thank you, sir. Article 6 of the Paris Agreement has three sub-articles. One of them is Article 6.2. It deals with what you call voluntary carbon markets. It also deals with voluntary mechanisms. And then Article 6.4 is compliance. When you talk about compliance, it means that it's under the UNFCCC. Now, we do have opportunities as countries to create carbon programs that are not necessarily compliance-based, by understanding, by having the stakeholders understanding what they want to do. And of course, they create their own mechanisms in terms of how the MRVs are going to be done. And this is what has developed what we are calling EATMOS now, where you find a country like Sweden dealing with Kenya to create products or carbon projects that are going to be counted in Sweden, although they are being enacted in Kenya. Those kind of opportunities are there, and especially they are helping in being less instinctive, where the proponents are able to create their own mechanisms and measuring procedures that are acceptable to both of them, even the transfer of credits and all those many things. It's a wide area. Now we have the Article 6.4 that deals mainly with the nationally determined contributions. That's purely compliance-based. And then we have Article 6.8, which deals with technology transfer. You find that especially the third world countries, especially the global south, is in need of technology. And now we do have ways to link technology-based advanced countries with developing countries in a protocol under the 6.8, Article 6.8 of the Paris Agreement. You want me to go deeper?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very, Captain. Sorry, I hope I didn't cut you short, but that was very exhaustive. And you touched on the NDCs, the nationally determined contributions, the compliance credits, the voluntary markets. So we just want to compare, just a bit of unpacking here to compare these three parameters and where the growth for these three parameters lie. So I think with that one, I think I'll request Madam Lilian, maybe just to give us an overview and a breakdown of the three. So Lilian, karibu.
Okay, thank you. So I'll be quick on it, maybe to start with the difference between the compliance carbon market and the voluntary carbon market. These two differ in the purpose they serve, the kind of regulations they have, and how they operate. So just briefly, so for the voluntary, as it sounds, it is not mandated by law, and you can operate, the entities can operate without government, and they go ahead and select.
Somebody's mic is on. Kindly mute your mic. Who is that? Yes, Lilian. Sorry for that. Continue, Lilian. Lilian, you're muted. We can't hear you. You're muted.
Okay, somebody had muted us all. Right, thank you. So as I was saying,
Sorry.
I hope we got the regulation bit. So we said for the VCM, that it does not have to operate. Actually, it does not operate with government, and the individuals on the entities just choose a private standard which they'd go with. For example, Plan Vivo is a private standard. Then the participants in this are all over the place, and it's mostly driven by corporates, which is looking to hit the net zero. So the types of credit also are different. So here we have avoided emissions, reductions, and removals. The quality and pricing of this will vary between the voluntary and the compliance markets. So in the compliance markets, which is what differs from the voluntary, it is governed by law. There are very stringent rules for it. And here governments mandate these entities to meet certain emission caps, where if they pass, they have to pay for that. So here there's less flexibility as opposed to the VCM, and the prices are influenced by government policies. So they're a bit stable and a bit dynamic as well, but they are high. Yes. So that's the key difference between the VCM and the voluntary. So when now we look at the opportunity that is coming in with Article 6 for a country like us, Kenya, it opens up for us, one, the market. We are able to engage at an international level where, because of these frameworks being in place. Two, it is helping us to meet our nationally determined contributions. Being where we are with the resources that we have, we are able to place them in the international market and use them to further meet our goals. We are not doing so badly with NDCs, but we can do better, of course. And if we engage in this VCM and compliance market, we're helping the country to meet the same. And it's also an opportunity. We have employment issues in the country. So where we engage in these markets, we are providing capacity for our people, as well as job opportunities. So I'll just give that brief summary, so in the interest of time.
Yeah, thank you, Lillian. I think you're very spot on, and I think everybody has had a good understanding from your explanation. So maybe now it's just time for us now to go a bit deeper, and we want to understand like exactly what does it take to develop a carbon project? What is the project life cycle from project conceptualization to the sale of credits, just in a nutshell, in an overview, and then before now we go to the specific projects that can be implemented. So Lillian, that is still yours. Maybe 2 minutes.
This nutshell, I hope I can fit in one.
Try
So
your best.
I will try my best.
Yeah.
Let me try to summarize everything. So first, we need to look at our feasibility. What product can we offer the markets, and how feasible is it? Who do we need to engage in offering that product? In summary, we've talked about a riparian, which requires restoration. So fine, we've seen we can do that. What kind of credits do you want to produce for the market? Who would we involve? Community, and what are the stakeholders? Then we need to engage them. We need to look at the feasibility now, and that is looking at what measurement procedures do you want to use? What standard do we want to use for this? Once we have established that, we also have compliance of law. Let's look at the national policies. We have the carbon market regulations. What does it require of us? We need to prepare documentation for that and apply for that. As now we do the project development, which will involve a lot of stakeholder engagement, a lot of ecological assessments to see how much credit you can get. And then with this, we develop the necessary documentation required by the private standard that we have identified. We apply for that. We go through the certification process, where it will involve them checking whether we have met their requirements. And once that is certified, now we go to the key part, which is implementation. Implementation will involve all the stakeholders again, and a lot of MRV. What is also very important within this whole cycle is the financing. We need to know at what point we need so much money and where we are going to get it from, because I'll tell you, it's not a cheap affair. So we also need to be ready in those terms. And also we need to build some capacity in our MRV as well as our marketing strategies, so that we are able to fetch good prices, know where the market is, and not be left with a whole bag of product that we're not able to dispose of, in a nutshell.
Thank you, Lillian. I think you've done it justice. So thank you very much for that question. And that particular question on the project cycle leads us to the next one. And now that we've understood it, we want to go a little bit back and just look at the entry step of developing a carbon project. There are quite a number of projects that one can choose from. There's emission reductions, carbon dioxide removal, that is the CDRs, renewable energy credits, green water credits, ABMs, the RED++ projects. So I don't know, Lillian, maybe you can just highlight so that we know when you want to do a carbon project, which one means what, in that order.
In that order, Dennis, let me change how I'll respond to
this. You can change.
Because this goes down to the feasibility. So I don't want to start breaking down what everything is. So we want to look at what do we have. The Tana Basin, Tana Riathi Basin is quite broad. So what aspects of it do we want to trade? We have one, and I'll talk to this, it being one of the highest fetching. We have blue carbon at the end. That is the mangrove section in the Tana Delta. That could be an option. But it has its intricacies. It has its ways of going around it. We have the riparian, where we've talked about afforestation, if I got that clearly. So there we are talking about trade activities. That's another opportunity. On the water, I'm not sure how well we are doing in terms of water, whether we'd be looking at whether we have any areas of waste where we'd be thinking of methane, where we'd be looking at renewable energy. I think that is outside our area. It is more of what the communities involved would be engaging in. So that can be an additional. So when you're doing the feasibility, you want to look at what is under your control, what you're able to do an MRV for, because the MRV is very key when you're coming to the trading. You're supposed to be able to say, I've produced this and it is verifiable because I'm able to control the activities and actually report accurately. So I'll ask that we really go down onto a feasibility. And as long as we've not really identified the area where we want to work, it would be hard to say, go for this or go for that. Yes, then I'd also say, as much as we have a very broad area of opportunities, I mean, let's also start from a scalable place. Let's start from something, not just because it can fetch a lot, but see what we can scale. We can start small, see how well it's working as we go high. As I told you, this is a high finance, high intense, it needs a lot of funding, yeah? So, and start with a pilot, yeah? Yes,
Yeah.
so I don't want to start defining the different kinds of removals that we have. Yes, but I've tried to summarize. Red, blue carbon,
Thank you. I think
waste, energy.
That's okay. So thank you. I think that's a good overview that you've given. So you talked about the MRVs. How can we ensure that the credits that we're getting are credible? So maybe in a nutshell, just again, not in a nutshell, but just a bit of explanation on how to ensure a robust measurement, reporting, and validation of credits is done.
So a robust MRV will begin right at project design. So if you want, again, I always say, bite what you can be able to chew. I hope my co-presenter is not overtaking my voice. Okay, so be able to bite what you can be able to chew. Start small if that is what will work best for you. MRV requires identification of all the areas that you have. Have something that is smart. Whatever indicators you're going to use need to be very smart, and a good standard will help you to identify this at the beginning. So if you have indicators that will give good quality to your products, go for those. Remember in your MRV to include the social aspect. I think I'm jumping all over the place, but yes, let me try. Have an indicator that will help also to be able to assess the social aspects of your project. of your project. Capacity is necessary. So when you're designing your project in terms of MRV, ensure that you have people who can be able to do this MRV, can be able to report it, and you have the necessary resources that you need for that particular MRV. Again, design MRV in such a way that it is continuous, that you don't have to come in, say, after 2 years to try and see what we've been doing on this and that and that. So have a continuous system to collect this data. A good MRV will ensure that you have engaged, that you have the climate indicators, you have the biodiversity indicators, and you're also looking at the social aspect of it. Yes, then I'll also mention on the V part, on the M and R in Kenya, we are doing very well. But for the V part, we have a bit of a challenge, which we can also try to build capacity on as we consider developing a carbon outfit for this. I hope that nutshell is good enough.
Yes. Yeah, that is good enough. You've done it justice, and I think we've now understood MRV and how to ensure robust reporting. So maybe my follow-up question would be now, you've done your carbon project, it's been validated. So how do you ensure that your project fetches high credits? And people are asking, where exactly do you sell these carbon credits? So maybe again, because you're from the standard again, maybe I can ask you to answer that.
Okay, I'll bring us back home and tell what I always tell everybody. When you're starting off the project, for you to produce credible credits, please don't make the trade your number one objective. Have it like number 4 there so that you can manage your expectations. And then you have other things, other goals that you want to meet. So number one goal for us, let it be conservation and perfect optimal functionality of our ecosystems. We have wonderful resources that we've been blessed with. So let's prioritize putting those back into pristine condition. Then from there, let's look at how can we trade these benefits from that. We have what we call beyond carbon benefits. If we reach out for those, then we'll definitely fetch out good money, because one, it'll mean we have prioritized not just the climate mitigation, but we have also looked at how our people are interacting with this resource. We have made sure it is optimal in terms of what benefits it's giving to them, and the biodiversity aspect is also considered. So once you have produced this, and make it comprehensive, just don't make it upselling carbon and that's it. Package it in such a way that has many colors to it. That is the social, and the biodiversity. Look for a good standard, which is has a good name in the markets. Plan Vivo, for example, we are known. Whatever we tell you, this is a Plan Vivo credit, you know it comes comprehensive, because we are very strict on that and ensuring that benefits go down to the community. Secondly, the market. Now, when you get a private standard, it's not going to trade for you, but whatever product you get from this standard determines how marketable you are. If you go for a standard which is not very credible, you'd have to go to the behind the market, if I may say, for lack of better words. But market goes down to us. I'll tell you from our project experience, we don't look for market. The market looks for us, because we have good product which everyone wants to be associated with. Then you need capacity for marketing. So let not the scientist who is developing the project to also be given the job of selling. Let's get the right people to do the right job, and they'll understand how those things work. Yes. Do you need someone in the market maybe, or that is enough?
The technical bit is a bit loaded, so it's very difficult for us to unpack it in a very short time frame. So I think on that one, let me just appreciate your submission, and I think they've been very rich. We've understood, and I encourage our participants to keep on sliding the questions on the chat box. So I think just to wrap up this section, I'll want to bring on board Captain. Captain, I want to ask you, I have two questions for you. And the first one is on credibility. I think that one has been asked by answered by Lillian. So what are some of the demand gaps that are there in the market out of oversupply of our low carbon quality credits? And maybe as you answer that, a follow-up question would be, how can project developers ensure their credits meet evolving global integrity standards? So Captain, that is for you as we wrap up that section.
What was the first question you asked before you talked about the standards?
The first question was on demand gaps that are already existing in the market and the key risks of oversupply of low quality credits.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. Now, gaps are there. The demand for credit is very, very high. But remember, credits are also categorized in many ways with permanence. How long is your credit going to be permanent? What are the risks involved in it? Because you have to think about that, just like the lady who was before me talked about from Plan Vivo. You have to plan your carbon knowing who your clientele is going to be. You have to plan your carbon for a particular market. I'm going to try to look at Tarda area. One of the things you could do in the Tarda region to have permanence in your carbon is dealing with AFORU, agriculture, forestry, and other land use. And when you're dealing with it, one of your challenges is how to set it up. You have a lot of inversion species, like what we call mathenge or mesquite or prosopis. And you can use prosopis to create a circular economy where what you're going to be dealing with the harvested prosopis is going to end up being part of the soil. You create the biochar. You could even use it to create energy. This is what when you deal with methodologies like BECS, bioenergy with carbon capture and storage. And these are things that are already available that you can use, that you can exploit as part of what you're going to deal with. Now, if you were to deal with that, you would look for you'll be getting a quality carbon or a quality CDR that you can then be able to put in the tech market, because there are different categories of carbon and there are different prices of carbon. You find that bioshard-based CDRs are running well above 100 euros. And depending on the methodologies you're using, it could even go way, way higher. And all these things are there. And they're within the Delta, because the Delta is large. Even, I would imagine Mombasa is not in the Delta, but there are a lot of industries and other activities that are there. So you can look at them. When you're planning a viable and a valuable credit, you have to also look at the what you call the ESG, environmental and social governance. That governance is very, very important, and it fails out of programs if you're not able to give enough governance, because nobody wants to buy a credit and then 2 years later there is the stakeholders cannot hang together. And again, when you talk about technical credits, they are very measurable, they are easily verifiable, because, and again, they are very permanent. If you put biochar in the soil, you're not going to go out there and remove it. And so these are some of the things that one could look at. And variously other things that would also give your carbon a higher value is, of course, how you've set up what you refer to as your environmental goods and services. Because once you do a program a good robust program at an ESG, you eventually also have your credit measuring for what you refer to as environmental goods and services, EGS.
Thank you.
So all these things are things to be considered when you're doing it, but at the planning and the feasibility stages.
Thank you very much, Captain. Sorry for cutting you short. I think I'm a bit looking at the time. So thank you, Lillian, and thank you, Captain. I think you've provided us with a good overview of the global carbon framework, tracing it back from Kyoto, looking at the Paris Agreement. And basically, I think we've understood how a carbon project works, the carbon cycle, type of carbon projects to choose from. So thank you very much. I think at this juncture now, I think it's important for us now to bring the discussion closer home. And we want to look at our own legal frameworks. How has it been designed to support carbon projects? So policy, again, is a safeguard for credibility, and carbon markets depend on it for trust, transparency, and integrity. And of course, without clear rules, there'll be a very high risk of greenwashing, double counting, exploitation from different quarters. So, Madam Gladys Warigia, I want to bring you now aboard. I want you to help us to understand the gaps that were initially there and what those gaps have been addressed by the 2024 climate change carbon market regulations of the year 2024. So, Madam Gladys Warigia can give us an overview and basically how the gaps have been filled currently.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dennis. And thank you for this opportunity. I will just also try to build on the previous colleagues of the speakers, just trying to draw that Kenya has participated previously. It's not the first time that you're talking about participation in carbon markets. This has been ongoing for quite a while, about 20 years or so. And so you also talked about the Kyoto the CDM. that preceded this new structure under the Paris Agreement. And so there has been a lot of lessons for the country to draw, and also has been mentioned that there's a lot of demand for globally for companies to reduce their emissions and all that. And so the government looked at that and identified the need to if the country has to reach that demand, participate more robustly in the carbon market, then we need to address a number of gaps. And so, of course, just before the review of the Climate Change Act in 2023, what the market that we've been participating largely has been the voluntary carbon markets, and then that has been mentioned quite strongly. And so there has been now, we have now opportunity to participate broadly in the compliance market. And so some of the challenges that we've had are that there was no sort of clear structure if the country has to participate in the voluntary market, in the compliance market. And we've had that it's quite robust, it's quite regulated. Then we have to create the relevant legal frameworks within the country. We need to create the relevant infrastructure as a country. And so that is one of the sort of the gaps that are existing. The other gap that was existing is that we know that there has been a number of carbon projects that exist within the community areas. And there has been sort of a lot of concern on how do we manage issues of integrity. And so we've heard about a lot of brokers, a lot of greenwashing concerns, a lot of all that, and also concerns whether some of these projects are really contributing to the climate action. And so the government identified that need to address the issue of how to really address the issue of managing such kind of risks. Community, a lot of concerns. We've seen a lot of problems on the ground that communities are not being given a fair share. And so, and especially in matters benefit sharing, in the transactions, in the agreements. And so how do you protect the same? As a country, also trying to track where we are in terms of also achieving our own NDCs and how some of these projects beyond the compliance market can contribute. So there was not that infrastructure to address that. And so what we started off as a country was review the Climate Change Act of 2016, and that happened in 2023. And so the idea of the Climate Change Act the review was to provide that framework, introducing how do we regulate the carbon framework within the country. And so there is an issue of providing the Act has provided a framework for regulating oversight of how people participate in carbon projects, how they are approved in the country, how they are authorized, and we had about issues of ITMOs. How do we also scale market participation and penetration in both, not just the compliance bucket, but also how do you build a robust voluntary in-house as a country, but also globally as we engage globally. Safeguards for community, how do we enhance stability and build investors' confidence? How do we bring clarity in matters benefit sharing, clarity on what county governments do, that is both national and county, and how do we also enhance compliance? As much as we have the different standards, how do we also create a framework that enhances compliance to those? And so that's the framework that was established within the Climate Change Act. And so moving on, of course, that is at a higher level. And so moving on, there has been we have a very robust legislative framework under development. We have the carbon markets regulations that are passed and gazetted in 2024. We have the ongoing drafts on the carbon trading regulations. We have the draft carbon registry, national carbon registry. Recently, of course, the RED Plus was launched, the registry. We have the non-market approaches. And so I also understand the MRV regulations are coming into place and incentives. And so it's quite a heavy sort of legal framework. And also sort of not many countries, and especially within the global south, are developing, starting off from a regulatory perspective. Most of them are starting from policy. And so in that case, Kenya is sort of building or creating precedents or sort of pioneering this chapter. And of course, it's a new space and a lot needs to be done. Over. I don't know whether I've exhausted the question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Gladys. Sorry, I think I got disconnected along the way, but I think it was very comprehensive. So maybe just a follow-up question. I may have missed your submissions. Would be so beyond looking at the policy solving opportunities, I mean solving gaps. What opportunities do these regulations create for Kenya to become a regional hub for carbon trading?
One of the things, or of course, a big challenge is how to we ensure, and there's been a lot of talk about how we ensure that we have we are generating credits that are of high integrity, that are solving the global issues of climate change, but also contributing to sustainable development of countries, and also supporting communities' resilience and development. And so, with that in mind, we are looking at the legal frameworks has created such structures, infrastructures, and one of them is, of course, the establishment or the designation of the of NEMA as the designated national authority that is responsible for all this kind of oversight. And so, of course, as a DNA, there's a sort of comprehensive structure that a country that is the country is able to comprehensively authorize, approve projects, authorize participation in the global markets and under the ITMOs and all that. And so, not many countries have designated. I think it's about 116 countries that have already submitted or sort of designated their DNA. So in that case, you understand that's significant progress. And towards that, there's also the creation of the carbon registry, the National Carbon Registry, which is a structure or a system that a sort of an online infrastructure that is able to help the country to sort of track where we are in terms of projects that is both compliance and voluntary, able to enable us avoidable counting, able to provide sort of that public transparency that there's records that people can really see and see what is sort of happening. And so those are the opportunities that have created sort of put Kenya in sort of a higher standard. The fact that issues of safeguards are quite key in terms of, we heard about, it's not just any credits. People are looking at credits that have a meaning or have something to behind it. And so we have looked at safeguards. I think not many countries are trying to sort of guide on how sort of a framework for safeguards. And so there's a lot of requirements for projects as they make application for approval at the DNA. Some of the things that is being looked in is what is the nature of the benefit sharing arrangements that are being provided. Of course, the regulation, the framework, the act and the regulations provide for a structured benefit sharing framework where for land-based carbon projects, it's at least 40% of the annual aggregate earnings, and that goes to the communities directly. There is that whole regime of that, how that is going to be managed. There is, of course, it's work in progress. A lot of concerns or challenges are being experienced around it, but I think there projects or communities and projects will navigate through the same. The requirement for non-based carbon projects, there's the 25%, at least 25%, and that goes to the Climate Change Fund. Again, there's the requirements of demonstration of FPIC, and I think this is quite one of the biggest sort of areas that is trying to ensure that communities are protected and it's not just going there for formalities. And so that, and then again, the structure for, and I think this is an area that's not often talked about, how do we manage conflicts or address conflicts within that framework? That legislation provides the same. So again, we are looking into, as we speak about carbon trading, there's a big talk about how do we penetrate and trade carbon rights, carbon assets within the sort of the market, like the Nairobi State Stock Exchange market. And that also creates appetite and also promotes that we are also able to generate local credits, but also participate and allow more platforms that credits can be built across board. And so the incentive framework is also an opportunity that the government is trying to unlock, both for physical and and fiscal, and trying to attract investments, but also trying to also engage financial institutions on how do we bring more capital, that also small projects, community projects are able to also take off. And so there's sort of a lot going on in terms of placing the country at that level, whereby we can be considered as a country, as a leader within the African context, maybe globally in the global south. Yeah, over.
Yeah, thank you, Gladys. I think that was very comprehensive, and you've touched on quite a bit. I had follow-up questions on the community, but I think you've answered them very well. The chat box, I'm seeing there's a lot of questions on the community, and basically just before I bring on Mikoko Pamoja, I think I saw Nancy. Nancy was asking a question on successful carbon projects that have been conducted by the community. So maybe just to finalize on the question on the issue of community, how do we ensure that benefits trickle down to the local community, the local people, not just the people who develop our carbon projects. And secondly, how do we, what safeguards have been put in place to protect indigenous landowners and the people of Kenya generally, as we conclude this section?
Okay, thank you for that. This is it's a conversation that can be held a whole day. But generally, of course, one of the opportunities that the legal framework has provided, as I mentioned, is providing clarity or sort of a baseline for what benefit sharing would occur. I've mentioned that. And so the biggest challenge is that how do we move it from legislation to action? And so most people look at it just from a point of 40%. And actually, we've been talking about it's not 40, it's at least. And so communities have the opportunity to go up and above 40%. And so it's a matter of supporting our communities understand that carbon is a business. And most of the time, communities view carbon projects as sort of the way they approach donor funding and all that. So creating a shift in the mindset that carbon projects are a business, and creating that sort of shift that we are participating in a very complex structure of business. And so that with that, they'll be able to negotiate for better sort of benefits that trickle down. But again, how do we also help them develop credible community development agreements? There's a whole provision and even Schedule 5 of the regulations, the carbon market regulations, that provide how you develop CDs. And so how do you ensure that these CDs are not another nightmare of governance and all that, that it's practical and really resonates the needs of the community in the long term? FPIC is still a big problem, and it comes from negotiating that from the onset. It's not just a one-off activity. You're engaging and developing the relevant structures of FPIC. And one of the biggest challenges of FPIC is how do you trace, how do you ensure that you're dealing with, for instance, one of the biggest carbon projects that is being developed within the Mara landscape within communities, within a conservancy setup, is 17,000 landowners. How do you ensure that collectively those communities, you're talking about FPIC, that they actually consent and they're involved across the whole sort of value chain of the project? I think that the other biggest lacuna or the challenge that we're experiencing, especially for land-based, and this is where the biggest challenge comes in, is our legislation about safeguarding community land rights. We have a community land act that was passed in 2016, and we are still way behind in terms of securing land rights, and especially for the former trust lands. And some of these carbon projects are being established in such, and so that's why we've been seeing a number of court cases trying to navigate the same. Some of these projects came in before Community Land Act. Some of them are being developed after or established our Community Land Act. And so how can we also seek that the government and pursue government and support communities that they really safeguard their rights? And this will also go a long way in terms of addressing issues of carbon rights. I think that's one of the areas that has not been very clear within the legislative framework, and as we move to the trading component. And so I think there's progress, but I think a lot still need to be addressed. Over.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gladys. Just to finalize this discussion on the community, maybe just to, you can give us maybe from your experience, the communities that have benefited from carbon credits in the conservancies in just 1 minute, and maybe you can just elaborate on how we can integrate gender. Gender is very important when you're talking about climate action, gender and youth inclusion, according to Article 6. So basically those two questions, the conservancies, how are they doing it? How have they benefited? Have they integrated gender and youth? Just 1 minute, and then we wrap up that section.
Okay, so within the conservancy network, we have about 230. We have actually within the membership, we have 230 conservancies, and so within the conservancies, there are 3 active carbon projects. There's the Kasigao one, which is among the oldest. That's the Red Plus. We have the Chulu, that has a combination of government and community. We have the Northern Kenya Rangelands project. Those are 3, and we have about 6 more projects or 7 under design, and we'll total about 74 conservancies, and so it's gaining traction, both as a tool for addressing the climate issues, but also biodiversity loss. And so there's been a lot of lessons, and because most of these projects, like for instance, the Northern Kenya Rangelands, the Kasigao, the Red Hills, and the Chulu Hills, all came before these legislations, and so there has been there's been a lot of sort of success in the sense that communities who have benefited from it are no longer not much donor reliant in terms of their developing their sort of the biodiversity livelihoods. And a case example I'll give, as much as it's under review, it's under review. I will give, for instance, one of the communities in 2022, the Northern Carbon one received, communities got about 256 million. And for the participating conservancies, there were about 14. Each community was able to get 30 million for the first issuance for 1 year, and the same was supposed to progress. And so that is money that communities can see it's out of their own intervention, and communities can commit that as we continue doing biodiversity conservation, as we do proper grazing, as we do better land rangeland management, then these are the benefits that we can derive. So it's not just about money. We are sustaining grass, we are sustaining opportunities for jobs and all that. That's one case I can give. So there's still a lot of lessons around it. But when it comes, and the same as when it comes to, I think that the question was what? Integrating the youth. I think this is a big discussion in the sense that a lot of youth and a lot of what you're seeing out there in the media and the agitation is because youth feel left out, and youth feel left out because of the way they see things, our parents see, because the elders, they're the ones who are signing the 30 years leases, the 40 years leases. But the community, if I'm a 20-year-old, I'm looking at what does 30 years ahead of me look like? And so we need to put ourselves projects that go and address the realities of the youth, and the realities of the youth is not just the money that comes in at the end of the day. You're commuting their lifetime. And so we have been discussing about how youth can be involved in the innovations and technology especially. And there's a lot of opportunity in especially job creation. We have apps for matters validation and verification are quite expensive, and you have to rely on third party from outside. And so how can the government enable sort of TVETs, develop sort of tools that enable the youth, but develop localized solutions for validation, for verification? How can they develop apps that help even tracing of money has been received from a point of the community? How does it trickle down? So we need to be innovative in that context and go beyond the normal benefit sharing or the normal, and actually we need to go from benefit sharing to revenue sharing and see them as sort of biggest players that contribute to as we build a robust infrastructure as a country. I think that's, and I know we can discuss this much, but I think in the interest of time, I'll leave it at that. Over.
Thank you very much, Gladys. And I believe maybe in your submission, when you talk about youth, you also factored in gender in there.
Yes, women, a lot of
Yes,
projects, and
gender
especially
PWD.
rangelands. Yes, there's been a lot of proof that a lot of successes of, especially of doing the grass banks and all that, it has been women, they have been women led. And so again, developing sort of structures, and also in the governance, you're talking about the CDAs, how do we integrate women in those CDAs, governing benefit sharing and all those structures. And so, yeah, I think those are the areas. Over.
Thank you, Gladys. I think that was very comprehensive. I commend you for giving it a very loaded response, in as much as the questions required more time to answer. But I'm seeing in the chat box there's a lot of questions on success stories that were community-led carbon projects, and I think at this juncture I want to bring on board a success story from Mikoko Pamoja. Initially, I talked about Mikoko Pamoja as a community-led initiative that is focused on mangrove conservation and restoration in Gazi Bay, that is in Kwale County. It is the first project of its kind globally to find conservation through the sale of carbon credits. And I want to ask Mr. Kasim, Kasim Hassan, if you're still in the room, I want you just to give us an overview on how you established this project. How has it been? What has the experience been for you, and what are the benefits that you've maybe enjoyed from this project? So Kasim, karibu sana.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. But to pardon you, I'm not Kasim Hassan, I'm Kasim Juma.
Kasim Juma, my apologies,
Yeah,
Juma.
no problem, my brother. So thank you for this opportunity. As Dennis has said that I'm Kasim Juma, I'm the carbon project coordinator of Mikoko Pamoja. So Mikoko Pamoja is a pioneering community-led initiative located in Gazi Bay, Kwale County. And it was launched in 2013 as we conserve and protect mangroves through the sale of high-quality carbon credits. The project was launched in 2013 as it stands the first community-led initiative globally to receive carbon credits for mangrove conservation. So in Gazi Bay, we have 715 hectares of mangroves, but Mikoko Pamoja is only conserving 117 hectares of mangroves. And over the crediting period, we have been credited by Plan Vivo for a period of 20 years, and we are supposed to trade 3,000 carbon credits annually. And we have been restoring mangroves every year by planting 0.4 hectares of mangroves. Since the implementation of the project, we have been able to restore more than 8,000 mangroves with the help and the support from the community members, government institutions like Kenya Marine Fisheries Research Institute, Kenya Forest Services, other stakeholders, schools, plus the volunteers. Nevertheless, we have employed 2 community forest scouts that help us in the surveillance of the forest, and mainly is to prevent the illegal harvesting of the mangroves within the project area. Nevertheless, we have been able to train community members on various activities, particularly on nursery establishment, the issue of livelihood monitoring, and the community, they have well accepted the project because it was not easy for the community members to abstain from cutting mangroves and stop cutting mangroves so that they can wait for the income generating activity through the sale of the carbon credits. So we have been used as an example in COP meetings at high political levels, nationally, internationally. And nevertheless, Mikoko Pamoja has garnered international acclaim, like the UN Person of the Year Award. It was 2023 due to our unwavering commitment. And also in 2017, we won the prestigious Equator Prize by UNDP, which led us to replicate the project to deeper south coast of Kenya, which is called Vanga. There's a project called Vanga Blue Forest. And for this, the community, they are very happy. And the income through the sale of the carbon credits has supported essential community services, which align closely with the sustainable development goals, like no poverty eradication, SDG number 1, SDG number 13 about climate, clean energy, SDG number 7, SDG number 17, which talks about partnership, as well as life below water, and then the issue of biodiversity. So at Mikoko Pamoja, we believe that conservation can only be successful if it benefits both people and nature. So the Mikoko Pamoja community has been actively involved by the project, whereby they have been given the mandate.
I don't know whether I'm losing you, Kasim. Sir Kasim?
Hello? You hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you. Now I can hear you.
Oh, sorry, maybe it was because of the network.
Yes,
Should
yes. But now
I
you're
continue
clear.
or?
Yes, continue.
Okay. So I'm saying that through the collaboration training we have been doing with the community members, the community, they feel that they own the project, and also it improved the social cohesion and long-term impacts of the initiative. So nevertheless, the project area we are operating is too small, but we have brought some proposal to Kenya Forest Service, and nevertheless, we are supposed to align with the carbon market regulations, which was launched in 2024, to align with those regulations so that we can be given the mandate to increase our operational area from 117 to 350 hectares, so that the community can get a lot of the income through the sale of the carbon credits. So we have been able to support some activities like the issue of education in our area, the issue of water, which was one of the critical things, because our water, most of the women, they used to fetch water long distances after school, I was one of the culprits whereby after school at 4 p.m. I was supposed to walk for long distances to fetch water. But for now, everyone is having a water tap at his home, and the community is very happy about this project. And we're looking forward to writing more chapters of success. And I say thank you for this opportunity. In case of any question, I can go deep on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kasim. I think your response has been very apt, and we've really understood what Mikoko Pamoja is all about. And that was a very good testimonial of how the communities can be brought on board to uptake carbon projects. And I'm sure even currently in our some of our participants are our community liaison persons, and we're looking forward to tapping into some of those success stories that we've had at Mikoko Pamoja in establishing nature-based solutions for our project, for different projects in our different areas. So thank you very much, Kasim. Hassan. Kasim Juma, rather. Yes, thank you very much. I think you'll just be on standby for in case there'll be more questions. We'll be addressing them to you later. I understand Lillian may be dropping off at some point. Lillian, we hope that you will still hang around, but in the event that you'll drop out of the call, we'll still, I think we have your details. We'll share your details with some of the participants. So we're almost at the tail end of our discussion. We have like two more parameters that we need to look at. And I want to bring on board Captain again once more to talk about investments and finance. So we want to look at the financial models that are proving to be most effective in scaling carbon projects today. Are there any models that are seeming to be viable for scaling carbon projects, Captain? Maybe in 1 minute?
Yes, especially in the Tarda region, the models that work very, very well include forest-based models. And I'll give you a good example. There is a lot of land in between, and especially if you look at Mombasa to Nairobi, it's a highway with a lot of emissions from vehicles, and there are no afforestation or any form of forest there. That's a very good way to look at a possibility. And it can be done as a community program that can pay to the communities. And it's a very long distance. If you give it, if you give it the area, the land reserve area, you would end up with a lot of acreage of forests. Again, you can also look at the available opportunities through what you call land use intensification, Louis. Now, land in the Tarda region is not intensified. It's not intense. The usage is not intensified. That can be thought of. And again, where do you begin? You begin with what is naturally available at that point. And a good example is the Tana Basin. If you go to Tana River is completely choked with Mathenge, Prosopis. And what I'm looking at here is the biomass. You thinking of harvesting the biomass to create nature-based solutions. And by so harvesting the biomass, you're going to be left with land that's ready for land use change. And you can do land use change into forestry, even into commercial afforestation, where you can be harvesting. And I would also like to mention areas like in India, where they are dealing with Prosopis to create very robust community projects that are also very good in soil carbon storage. It's because the biomass does the carbon capture and the soils do the storage. So if you look at it, it would be a very good thing. Again, you can also look at energy from them, renewable energy. You can create wood pellets, you can create charcoal, and all those other things that come with it, including also electricity. Another area that is there and can be used is in what you refer to as agrivoltaics. This is where you have areas like in Kitui, and which are not very vegetated. And you can use solar on top, harvest solar, and by so creating the shade, you end up with a fodder on the bottom. You create the glasses that the goats and the sheep can be able to use. These are very modern programs that are very acceptable under the Paris Agreement. And they can be done under Article 6.2, where the developer, once the communities, I think in Kenya, the hardest thing is to get the communities thinking and behaving as a unit so that you can be able to bring in the investors that can be able to do it. So all these things can be done. And the challenge maybe would come to Tarda, where Tarda could become the aggregator, the facilitator for these things, bring the stakeholders together and negotiate as a development agency on how that could be done. And it can be done. And the thing about it is that it is the number of the opportunity, the potential is very, very high, absolutely high.
Thank you. Thank you, Captain. Maybe just one final follow-up question on investment and finance would be, looking at the medium term and the long term, we trying to anticipate like what will define a bankable carbon project in the next 5 to 10 years. So I don't know what would define a bankability in a carbon project in the short run and then the long run.
Bankability is definitely measured by the benefits that communities have, the acceptability of the program to the buyers of the program, and of course, the long-term, paradigm shift that you're gonna get out of it. All these things are there. Land is a constant. You have land, and it's a lot of land. The next thing is the technologies you also bring in, because technologies also bring in the bankability of a program. So I would probably imagine that the biggest for us within the next 10 years to be able to do plausible carbon programs, the policymakers need to get involved. Among the things that needs to be done clearly is the technical assistance that can be that is available from development banks like Africa Development Bank. I'm sure even here the Green Climate Fund can be able to do it. But we need aggregation. We need a TM or let's say an entity like Tarda to put together that stakeholdership. And all you need is to get consultants like FIVO, like ourselves, and we can do it. It's being done in other areas, and we've done a carbon in the cashew sector, which is all made up of in West Africa. And here you can also do it in the coffee sector, because coffee sector is a very big sector. It's controlled by government in that it is societies, and Tarda is also part of government. So it can be organized, and what we need is Tarda's funding to be able to take the role of aggregation. And that kind of funding might be able to come from maybe the Green Climate Fund.
Thank you. Thank you.
Or
Thank
maybe
you very much.
the World Bank, Africa Development Bank.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Captain. I think
Thank
that was very comprehensive. We've covered investment, we talked about finance, and I think now we can shift gears a bit and look at innovation and technology. We cannot talk about carbon without addressing the rate at which technology is revolutionizing carbon markets. So I think to start us with this conversation, I'll request Dennis Kieng maybe just to tell us how is remote sensing and GIS very good tools in helping us in tracking land use changes for carbon projects. So Kieng, karibu sana.
Thank you, Dennis. I think we've had a mouthful of jargons from the previous presenters. So can you hear me? Kindly confirm. Dennis, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you, but you're breaking a
All
bit.
right. So
but just carry on. We can hear you
let
now.
me let me
Carry on,
dive
carry on.
right into the importance of GIS and remote sensing in the carbon creation and generation. So remote sensing and GIS is very crucial in MRV, as my previous presenters mentioned. So we need
Yeah,
to
I think
track.
we're losing you. There's a problem there with your internet.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, so we need remote sensing and GIS in MRV, especially land use change and quantification of the amount of carbon through the vegetative or the land cover. We use satellite imagery such as Landsat Sentinel to monitor vegetation cover. For example, the amount of forest cover within the project area. And, the amount of vegetation is directly proportional to the amount of carbon sequestered. So GIS provides a platform for collecting all the data for analysis and also to establish a baseline. Before you start a project, you want to know the amount of carbon stored within a project here. So you have a baseline for you to measure throughout the project. So from the baseline, the midline, and end line of your project, you want to understand how much of the carbon is being sequestered. So remote sensing provides a platform where you can measure to almost accurately the amount of carbon to be sequestered. So I believe that answers the question, Dennis.
Thank you, Kieng. I think the problem with the internet was on my end. I have been advised accordingly. So thank you. I think that was clear. And I think maybe just as you've talked about remote sensing and GIS, it's difficult to separate those two with the revolution that is happening with AI and blockchain technology, which we are currently in right now. So I think I just want to maybe just find out how are they improving transparency in carbon trading and how can they improve credibility in trading in terms of those two, AI and blockchain?
Mkutano sitakuhama.
Kian, that's still yours.
So blockchain technology is a new thing, and it provides a platform where carbon credits can be traded with high security and transparency. Think of carbon credits as a cryptocurrency. For example, Bitcoin. Bitcoin runs on blockchain technology. And with that, it comes with a lot of security and a lot of transparency. So bringing this technology to carbon trading, it will provide a secure way for buyers and sellers to trade in this environment, a secure environment, and also be able to track a project from the start until the end. So blockchain technology is very secure and prevents double counting because once a unique ID is generated, it will be able to track that carbon credit from the generation to sell until that carbon credit is retired. So this is a new technology that if adopted, it can prevent double counting, fraud, or reselling the same credit to multiple buyers. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kieng. I think the topic on innovation and technology is wide, and if we can take the whole day talking about remote sensing, GIS, AI. That space is quite wide, and I want to thank you. I believe we will have questions for you at the tail end. But just to my last speaker, my last panelist for the day, I want to bring on board now academia, and to that effect, we have Madam Esther Ndenya Muli from Lukenya University, and we want to understand how academia is often perceived as a silent engine for innovation. And we just want to understand more on how academia has contributed to the national and regional carbon policies, and what role has Lukenya University specifically played in that conversation. Karibu, Esther.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm audible.
Very
And
audible.
I thank you. So I'd like to pick that one by saying that first, I enjoyed the insights brought on board by Captain in line with how Tarda can play a key role in aggregation of the needed, and they're bringing themselves on board to do it. And as Lukenya University, we'd like to be part of that. To the question, when you look at higher learning institutions, yes, we have a mandate to contribute to carbon policies and legal frameworks by generating evidence, and this evidence must come from the research that we are doing. And this evidence must also bring on board the aspects of building capacity and fostering dialogue such as this that will have an impact thereon. So universities at large provide research data on things like carbon sequestration, land restoration, and ecosystem services that inform national commitments such as the NDCs. So for instance, studies on afforestation in arid and semi-arid regions, soil carbon storage in conservation agriculture, look at the work in Nakuru ongoing on conservation agriculture, and renewable energy integration. These works have guided policies in, for example, Kenya. We also have studies in South Africa and Ethiopia that also inform this. And beyond research, universities, we are mandated to train these climate scientists that we want to see in the next coming years, also to inform these policies. So in our curriculums, the mandate to train the climate scientists and practitioners to implement these frameworks. So at Lukenya University, if I may give an example, initiatives such as the 10 million tree project and dryland resource management studies, because dryland resource management is our flagship program. These studies and the 10 million tree project, for example, they supply empirical data that now policymakers like Kina Lillian and my fellow panelists can use to design viable carbon strategies. And when we link research with advocacy, we are able now to produce policies that are scientifically sound and also socially inclusive, because we've heard of the aspects of community, and practically they're implementable. So they're scientifically sound, they're also socially inclusive, and they're practically implementable. So we have a mandate in this, and we would also like to be part on board on this work that Tarda is doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther. Maybe just a follow-up question. You talked about research and what you're doing as an institution of higher learning. So basically, maybe I would just ask, are there any research contributions that you've done in the recent past on carbon capture, utilization, storage, that you have probably published at the university level?
I'd like to say, like, for example, now there is a few papers on the 10 million tree project that we worked with some specialists in GIS from Wageningen University, and also our colleagues, Dr. Slava and the rest from IAZA, who are interested in and have written papers modeling data, predicting even on what is even yet to come in 2060. And we're excited that these papers have not yet been published, but they are under review, and we cannot wait to see how this data we've collected just in our tree planting initiative since 2023 to now is going to propel us forward. So I can say that, for example, when you look at universities globally, we have been at the forefront of coming up with these innovations, ranging from look at industrial scale carbon capture technologies in the United States and Europe, to also nature-based solutions in Africa and Asia. And Asia is really doing a lot. So in Kenya and across East Africa, when we come back home, like higher learning institutions like Makerere and the University of Nairobi, they have demonstrated, I can pick a research from the University of Nairobi that has demonstrated how soil amendments improve carbon storage. Being a student there doing a PhD on this, on dryland resource management, our mandate is to get down to look at how this research will then synchronize and be able to be refined in a way that scientists can take these innovations from the books to the local context and create knowledge that industry and communities can adopt. Most of the time, universities we've been crucified for example, we carry out these innovations, put them on shelves, and the community, Mama Mboga hapo chini, or a community forest-led team cannot get what we are saying in line with the carbon credits, but they're already doing it. They have the resource. So us breaking down, refining to the local context and creating this knowledge that industry and communities can adopt, I think will bring the academia-led innovation in carbon capture, utilization, and storage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther. That was quite a contribution there. So maybe just finally, there's a lot of questions I could have asked you, but in the interest of time, maybe I may not be able to ask all of them. Finally, we've seen what Mikoko Pamoja is doing with mangroves in Kilifi. Maybe, are there any success stories that probably are being conducted by Kenya University in supporting the communities implement some of these carbon projects within your area of jurisdiction?
I can say that at Kenya University, we are thriving because of bringing stakeholders on board. And one thing that we have done, and I can attest to, is informing us and guiding us also and propelling us forward to meet the need of the communities that we are working with in line with, for example, a small thing like the 10 Million Tree Initiative is engaging directly with farmers and local groups through now bringing on board aspects like the farmer field schools that we are doing, the conservation agriculture training, and also partnering with institutions such as we pose a challenge to the community to come up with the solutions, for example, through our Food Systems Innovation Challenge, which equips youth and women with climate smart solutions. And by doing this, we try and integrate the aspects on board that they can, as they're taking care of the environment, before they even think of the climate financing, they're already practicing something that is sustainable and good, so that even when we'll start the conversation on the financing, it will not be a problem to sustain the project. So universities, yes, they support industry and communities, and I can say it is basically through those three pathways whereby we have to capture the research, the capacity building, and practical engagement. So what is this? When we meet a women's group, you'll find that when you look at contexts like knowledge base from Latin America, look at the case of agroforestry in India and watershed management that informs us. We are not yet where we can say we can meet, we have met international standards, but we can still get there because, as my colleague Lillian was saying, we need to be informed and to bridge the gap of bringing all of these stakeholders on board so that we can have some scientific rigor and also bring the policy, the research, and also bring the community to benefit, and also these people who have seen how can we come on board and enjoy climate financing. So I'd like to say that we are excited as institutions to produce this data, and now it will only be meaningful if we partner, because we cannot stay with this information on our bookshelves. and not disseminate it to the people and be of benefit to them. So we thrive as Lukenya University by partnering, and I really thank Tarda also because they have considered us as part of this. And for the artist reef that is passing through here, we don't take it for granted. We really are doing a lot in line with the agroforestry along the riverline. So thank you so much, and I know the communities really appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Esther. Those were very wonderful submissions. And I believe I have quite a number of questions for you, but in the interest of time, I believe we'll have opportunities in the future to further engage and maybe just drive up a deeper understanding on the nitty-gritties. And all the very best to you as you finalize your PhD. Asante sana. So I think now we can go to the question sections, and I can see the chat box is very intense, but Dr. Muihaki there is handling the questions really well. So I don't know if we have any burning questions that I'll just give maybe 5 people. I see there was Amos Mukua, nimeona Clement Chalo. So maybe Amos, if you're still in the room, I think I saw your hand somewhere. Maybe you can ask your question. Or we can just make it open. Let anybody who has a question, let them ask at this point. Yes, there was a question there on how farmers can register carbon credits. I think that one has been answered. Lillian has done justice there. I think Kasim, again, in the chat box has given very good responses there. Nancy was asking whether we could share examples of successful models where local communities were the true owners of a project, like a forest. I think that one has been answered by Mikoko Pamoja. Yes, there was a question on opportunities that lie within Tarda region, and I think that one has been answered. Mugambi, all your questions, I can see them. Why we need to tap into the carbon credit market, trading market. Yes, I think all those questions will be answered. There was a question on how long a tree can take to generate credits from it and how many years a farmer can start getting paid. Mr. Kasim Juma hapo amejibu 3 to 5 years, but also depend with the area. I think all the questions have been answered in the chat box. So maybe I can just give my panelists maybe 1 minute each just to give their way forward. Sorry, Lillian, there's a hand up there. Lillian Muihaki.
Yes, I wish to quickly debunk something.
Yes.
That the carbon market is not about growing a tree or I have this number of trees and trading.
Yeah.
If you want to successfully go into the market thinking that you're going to get a sale of carbon, please let that not be your priority. I always give this advice to people. So do the good for the climate, for yourself, and for biodiversity. Let carbon be, by the way, I'll give an example of, we've just done analysis along the coast to the mangrove side. The carbon is just 8% of all the benefits, and you're talking about 10 to 12,000 USD per hectare. It's only 700 and something that is coming from carbon credits. So let's consider in a holistic way, what would we do when we do these conservation efforts, and let the carbon money come in as a way to sustain our activities in that. If it is good for our pockets, well and good, but let us not go in with that mentality, because it will end up complaining that the market, that there was some deception in all this, because it's not as lucrative. It is lucrative, but not the kind of construct that you have, that I'm going to make so much money because I have planted a tree. And then remember, there's what I normally in simple terms, nasema kuna kazi ya Mungu na kuna ile yako umeongeza. Kazi ya Mungu, you'll not make money from it. The tree growing is not your effort per se. It is the extra mile that you have to go to ensure the sustainability of that tree. And that is what is painful. But remember, kazi ya Mungu is more than whatever efforts you may put in. So it's a bit of a complex idea, a bit of a complex market. So let's not oversimplify it, but again, let's strive to have a bit of understanding of what really happens and what we can do for the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kindly, let me just add to what she said. Just one sentence. Also, for the farmers, let them not look at planting a tree just as everything, because also different trees sequestrate carbon differently, and you cannot compare a forest in Rift Valley with this particular tree species with a forest in Mtito and Kibwezi East with this type of tree species. And also somebody else could earn more carbon credits for soil conservation and not tree planting. So how will they substantiate that? So sequestration of carbon is different by different trees. So we need to understand the matter first. So breaking it down for communities. And I think we can work with you guys to make very simple templates that we can train farmers with on these subjects. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Esther. I think Bundi still has a question. Bundi, if you have any question, kindly, I don't want to lock you out. You have the floor now. You can ask your question. Mr. Bundi. Bundi, if you can hear me.
Yes, Bwana Dennis. Good morning.
It's still morning. Good morning.
Yeah, my question is, can a community benefit with the carbon for trees planted in public land or in private institutions? Because we do plant a lot of trees in community lands and even in private institution. Can community register for the carbon finance so that they can benefit from those trees we have planted to the community? Thank you.
Maybe Lillian, you can help me with that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bundi. A few ways of answering this. One, yes, it is possible if you have the carbon rights. Getting the carbon rights involves engaging whoever owns the land and whether they'll allow you to have the carbon rights. Number two, I'm trying to see an analogy. Let me simplify it in this way. You may have planted a tree 10 years ago. That might not mean necessarily that it applies to the carbon market. It depends on the purpose you're planting the tree for and how long ago you're planting the tree for. Number one, make yourself happy by knowing that you have derived the benefits of whatever goal you had. Number two, there goes a lot of analysis will go into checking on whether the plantation or whatever you have planted is feasible in the market. It is very expensive to establish this, but and look retrospectively. Like for example, Plan Vivo will look back 5 years from when the tree was planted. Scale matters. 15 trees will not go very far. Plantation will not go very far. Sometimes even the planting. And then there's also another activity which is called avoided deforestation. There are very many ways of looking at this and quantify the benefits that you get from planting. Number two, there are areas where it would be very hard, difficult, and there'd be a lot of risks. Some lands, like if you consider, for us at Plant Vivo, we don't allow schools because people want to engage children for work that they are going to benefit, not the children, but the other individuals who are going to benefit. So we look at also these safeguards and injustices that may come about if we engage in particular areas or parcels of land. So yes, for private land, economy of scale, if you're one farmer, it will be very difficult, too expensive to establish a project. If it is community land, you have to get the carbon rights to that. The plantation, look back, how far can a standard go in terms of paying you for the carbon? Because the buyer also cares. If you go far too back, people don't want products that have been on the shelf for too long. Yes, in summary.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Lillian. I don't think we have any other question. I'm not seeing any other hand. So maybe I can just give my panelists maybe just 30 seconds each just to share your part in short. Maybe I can start with Mr. Mushiri. Just 30 seconds, just to tell us your parting shot as we wrap up the conversation.
Thank you, Dennis.
30 seconds.
This was very insightful discussion for us today, and we have really gained a lot of experience from my fellow panelists on what is supposed to be done when it's carbon to carbon marketing. And I wish this one can be put into practice so that next time we shall be having, or we shall have to walk the talk of what has been said. Having said that, there was an issue of which was not really addressed. I did not bring it up on panelized farming. How soon can you get the carbon credits from methane abatement? That one is through burning, and I would also like to get answers from the panelists on what's supposed to be done. Otherwise, I'm very grateful for the panelists. It was very insightful, and we are looking forward towards future engagement. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Leonard Mushiri, and thank you very much for your contributions as well. It's been very rich, and you've given a very good perspective. So secondly, I think I'll go to Esther, Madam Esther. Your parting
Thank you.
shot.
I think in just one sentence, I can say that the future of carbon markets depends on credibility, and communities must benefit directly, and universities, we are here, we can help safeguard integrity through independent evaluation. So thank you so much, Tarda, for organizing this. The organizing committee as well, Lukenya University feels honored to be part of this conversation. So thank you so much, Dennis, and your team.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Esther. Yes, asante sana, and all the best to you as well. I think I can now give the opportunity to Captain. Captain, maybe your parting shot in 30 seconds.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Dennis. It was gorgeous talking to all of you, the experts. Thank you kindly. I'd like to bring in a kind of new reflection on carbon dioxide removals. If you have a forest, and I'm talking to the farmers of forest lots, if you have a forest that matures and you harvest your wood, and that land is going to be for more afforestation, you keep on harvesting and planting. Yes, you can participate in CDRs because once timber is part of CDRs. If you build a house with wood, you are forfeiting cement for wood, and that's a nature-based solution in housing, and it's also carbon dioxide removal. And it's just like the way you would plant trees for you to create biochar. Yes, you would be earning from biochar, and it's carbon dioxide removal. I'd also like to mention, especially to the mangrove foresters, that there's a technology in enhanced log weathering that you can also deal with, where you sequester carbon by using rock. Basalt rocks especially are very acceptable, and we can always talk about these things later on. And to Mr. Mushiri, who talked about the rice and the methane in the rice, yes, there are methodologies to it. We get used to, we deal with those, and so we can also talk about them. But all in all, I thank you. It was it was beautiful having this conversation, and I look forward to further engagement, especially if we carry on with the University of Kenya, because I would like to really get involved in what they are doing, especially in BECCS, that's bioenergy with carbon capture and storage. And also, if you allow me one more second, when you talk about CDUs, carbon dioxide utilization, it's the real deal in agriculture, because you're planting 1 bag of maize and harvesting 100 bags of maize. Where did that maize come from? It's carbon dioxide utilization. We can talk about these things, and I thank you, and I give you a Captain salute to end this.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Captain. We really appreciate your contribution. And I'm sure you're very well versed with the two basins, the Tana and the River basins. And I'm sure you've spotted very many opportunities that we will now be maybe talking about it in a different discussion or maybe follow up future conversations. So thank you very much, Captain. Kasim, maybe your parting shot in 30 seconds. Kasim Juma. As we wait for Kasim, maybe Dennis Kieng, your parting shot.
Thank you, Dennis. So my key takeaway is that MRV is very expensive, and where there is a huge problem, it presents an opportunity for innovators and problem solvers to come in and develop solutions that will help so many people address the issues of monitoring, verification, and reporting. So we already have the tools, we have the skills, and I welcome all the innovators out there to come in and let's brainstorm and come up with a solution to address those challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. I don't know whether Kasim is still aboard.
Yes, Dennis, sorry, I had issues with network.
Yes. Just 30 seconds, your parting shot, and looking at the interest that we have for community initiated projects in the basin. So just give us your reflection. Don't know whether I can't. Yes.
Hello?
Carry on. Maybe as we wait for Mr. Juma to fix his internet, maybe I can go to Madam Lilian Mwihaki. Maybe Lilian, you can tell us your parting shot, and thank you very much for your very valuable contribution. And also maybe you can just touch a bit on the question posed by Mushiri on how we can achieve credits from rice through methane abatement.
Thank you, Dennis, for that. And thanks for having me. And one of our projects, maybe to respond to Mr. Mushiri.
Cassie, maybe you can mute your mic a bit. We can't hear Lilian clearly. Mr. Juma, you can mute your mic. Yes, Lilian, carry on.
Hello.
Yes,
okay,
we can hear
thank
you.
you.
Carry on.
Thank you. I wish to appreciate the opportunity to share and to learn also. Thank you to my panelists as well. Or to Mr. Mushiri, I didn't get the question very clearly, but I think he's talking about rice farming and methane. I'm seeing aspects of insetting there. So because let me give it a quick overview. If Tarda is not directly engaged, I would talk about engaging the farmers in what we call insetting and including that in their products to earn them a better product, and they can also get ways of covering for the insetting of the methane within their projects. My parting shot would be to Tarda. This topic is very broad and there's different levels of understanding. I would request that we have it in bite-sized portions, and so that we start with the community from a point of understanding right from the beginning, so that decisions are made gradually and with everybody's understanding. This will take us less time to come up with a project and a better way of implementing and going through the whole program of developing a project. And also remember, the biodiversity market is also emerging. That is also an area that we can start looking at, especially considering that we are having water. I'm happy to join you again for more insights and to learn some. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you very much, Lilian. We really appreciate your contribution, very valuable, and we look forward for future engagements to all our panelists. This has been very, very constructive. Maybe before I lock out Mr. Kasim, Juma, unanisikia? Am I?
Yes, Dennis, I hear you. Niko na issues za network kidogo bana leo. Nateseka sana. Ndio maana
Hamna
I'm in and
shida.
out.
Yeah, carry on.
Yes.
Your parting shot. I think it's important to hear from the community perspective what you would advise us, what you would encourage us, and the opportunities that are present that we can tap into. I think Kasim umepotea tena. It's okay. It's okay, Kasim. Maybe as we close, ladies and gentlemen.
From my side, what I'd love to say. So from my side, I'd love to say that for the project you are intending, hey.
Turn off the video, maybe.
Yeah, maybe you can switch off your video so that we can hear.
Okay.
Have you managed? Are you there?
Can you
Yes,
hear me
carry
now?
on. Yes, very clearly.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Kasim.
Okay, thank you. I'm so sorry for the inconvenience.
No
So
problem.
I'm saying that for this to be successful, I think the community should be on the forefront.
I think there's a serious maybe
They
network
own
issue
the
at
project.
Juma's
Thank you.
side. Maybe Juma, you can just send us your parting shot on the chat box and then we can read it out. But thank you very much for your contribution. Thank you for sharing what Mikoko Pamoja is doing in Kwale. It's been a great pleasure having you. So thank you very much. I don't think I've left anyone out. I think Gladys Warigia has stepped out. She had another meeting. But it's been a great honor with a very rich conversations that we've had. We've moved from the Tarda Basin, we've talked about the Paris Agreement, we've talked about the Kyoto Protocol, and we've explored law, finance, technology, we've talked about community, academia, and basically the private sector. And the message is very clear that climate finance is not just about carbon credits, it's about land, it's about water, it's about people, and it's about integrity. So thank you very much, my distinguished panelists, to all of you who tuned in, and for Tarda for convening. I can see the managing director is in the room, but is not in a position maybe to do the closing remarks, but we thank you very much. Let's keep the conversation alive because the future of climate finance is being written today, and Kenya has a chance to lead, and most importantly, Tarda has a very big role in steering the conversation within the Tana and Athi River basins. So with that, I think I want to welcome Madam Julie from the MD's office to do the closing remarks, and then we can end it on that note. Madam Julie, karibu sana.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. I believe you can hear me. All right. First things first, I'd like to thank everyone who was able to participate in today's webinar. I'd like to thank Captain Job. I'd like to thank Lillian. I'd like to thank Gladys. I know she has stepped out. I'd like to also thank Esther. Thank you so much. And Mr. Kasim. Also to our own TADA panelists, I want to thank Leonard Mushiri. And also, of course, we also have Dennis Kiyeng. And definitely you have to thank our moderator, that is Dennis Langat himself. And also to our participants who have been able to be with us throughout. Thank you so much. We would not have been able to get through this or to do this without you all. So for me, mine is to look forward to more collaboration and more conversation that is going to be held beyond this webinar, definitely on this conversation. It's been very exciting. So for mine is just to say thank you, and God bless you all. I think because we started with the word of prayer, we can finish with the word of prayer. Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you indeed for giving us this ability, Lord, to have this very, very amazing conversation. And for more conversations that are ahead of us, Lord, we thank you and we bless your holy name. In Jesus' name we do pray and believe. Amen. Thank you so, so much once again, and have a great rest.
Thank you very much. We can end it on that note. Asanteni sana.